Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. My name is Angelia, and today is time for Friday Reads on January 13th, 2023. So it is Friday the 13th, so I hope that you have an uneventful day. My daughter loves Friday the 13th. She was actually born on a Thursday the 13th, but she's just like 13 is her favorite number, and she loves it when it's Friday the 13th. And so, since she knew her cat is about a year old, she has assigned today as his first birthday. So, happy birthday to Moo, the grand cat. All right. This week, what have I been doing? Well, in TV watching, we are still watching the morning show, and we really liked. I mean, the first season was really good. It was very, very tense, and it kind of suspenseful in a not a thriller kind of way, but just sort of, I don't know, it just like all of the backstabbing and machinations that were going on. It's kind of a story about a fictional TV station and a sex scandal similar to the Matt Lauer situation. And this it takes really the whole season to unfold about what all he did, and he gets fired, and then there's lots of fallout, lots of questions about who was complicit, and it just creates this whole very, very tense environment. And it was just really well done. The acting is good, and so we started the second season. We'll kind of see where they go with it. But in the first episode of the second season, it's New Year's Eve 2019, and at the end of the episode, like it they're in New York and the ball drops and it's 2020, and like right when that is happening, somebody kind of walks by in the background and sneezes. And I guess it was sort of a joke, like foreshadowing. It made me wonder. Stephen and I were talking about how weird it was in like March of 2020, and I wondered suddenly, well, what exactly was I reading when it went down? And so I had to dig around, and I found the correct journal, and the book that I was reading when it began was The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. And the reason why I know this is because the first sentence of that entry is, I started reading this in the normal world, and we were in Corona shutdown by the end. So that is the answer. It was The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which I'll show you this lovely penguin cloth-bound edition. I did receive a Bronte set that Christmas 2019, and so it makes sense that I was reading something from that set. And anyway, so that's part of why I like to keep the written reading journals. And I mean, I guess an online one could do the same thing, but I like to dip into the past and see what I was reading at certain times. Enough of that. Let's talk about what I actually am reading right now. And I finished one book this week, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through another one. And the first one I read was the one that I took with me on a little road trip last weekend, and it is Two Nights in Lisbon by Chris Pavone. I got this from the library. I'm not sure if it's Pavone or Pavone, actually, but I have never read any books by this author before, and now I'm excited to see that he has several others and that my library has them. Stephen read this book a few weeks ago, and he told me I would really like it. We both have this like spot in our reading needs where we need a good mystery thriller, kind of action-packed, twisty-turny, good book. And those can be surprisingly hard to find. And there's some authors that we kind of call upon to fill this kind of niche. I've read some decent ones by Joseph Finder, Michael Carita. I don't know. Sometimes I just want to read that kind of book. It just moves along. It's not like Booker Prize material, but it is a good, fast-paced story. And those are really good for trips. So this particular one, now I'm excited because I can go back and read some other books by Chris Pavone. And okay, so what happens in this book? There is a couple, and the woman is in her 40s. Her husband's about 10 years younger, and they've only been married for a few months. And she accompanies him on a business trip to Lisbon. And he sort of has one of these vague business jobs that she's not totally clear on, and we never are either. But she goes along with him on this trip, and they're trying to combine a little bit of vacation in with the business trip. She lives on a small working farm and has a independent bookstore in a little town, and she has a 13-year-old son. She alludes to a previous life when she used to live in New York City, and bit by bit we find out more about that and why she left. But upon arriving in Portugal, on after their first day, their first fun day, and then the next day he's supposed to go to work to his business meeting, and when she wakes up, he's gone, and she doesn't know where he is. He doesn't reappear. She doesn't see any signs that he took his things with him, except his phone, but his phone is not locating or answering, and she becomes very worried. And she eventually, in that day, she goes to visit the police and the U.S. Embassy. And at first, she is not taken terribly seriously because, you know, he hasn't really been gone that long, and they give her a million reasons why he might have, you know, some reasons legit, like he went to work and forgot to tell you, and some reasons not so legit, like he's got somebody on the side, and just all these different things, and, you know, kind of imply that maybe you just don't know him very well because you haven't been married very long, and all these kind of things. But when after she leaves, we also get the conversations and scenes of those investigators, and they do get kind of interested in what's going on. It does turn out she does receive a ransom note, and the action never stops. This is a nonstop action book. It's kind of book where when you get to the end, then you stop and start to pick on little things, and you go, well, what if this, or why did that, or how did they know that was gonna, you know, those kind of things. But you don't do it in the course of reading because you just don't have time to stop and think about it. So over the course of the story, we find out more about her background, what might be going on. We see the things going on. There's the police officers, the CIA, the embassy people, a journalist that kind of gets wind of that there was a kidnapping and gets curious, and all these different things that are happening. And it would make a really good like episodic, you know, 6 or 8 part like Netflix thing, because it the suspense, like there's lots of good places to stop the episodes for a cliffhanger. And I think it would move along fast enough that you wouldn't pick at the loose threads too much until after you'd seen the whole thing, just like when you're reading it. It does deal with some themes of sexual violence towards women. So if that is an uncomfortable headspace for you to read about in a book, you might want to not choose this one right now. But if you do like a fast-paced, smart thriller, I really enjoyed it. The other book that I've been working on this week is, it's very nondescript looking, but it is Dangerous Liasons by Pierre, Ambroise, Francois Chaderlos de Laclos. And this is a translation by Ernest Dowson. This is the New York Public Library's collector's edition, and it has some very weird artwork. They found some artwork by a French illustrator named Sylvain Sauvage that were made for a deluxe edition published in Paris in 1930. So we have these weird kind of racy pictures throughout the book. I don't know if you can see that, but they're kind of tied into the plot, but they're pretty bizarre and a little bit lurid, but they're kind of fun that they're in there. I first read this book when I saw the original movie in the late 80s, and I really liked it then. I guess it would hold up now, I don't know. And I wanted to read the book, so I checked it out from the university library and found it to be just as scurrilous as the plot of the movie. And it's at the heart of this are two ex-lovers who, Valmont and Mortuel, I can't do French, but anyway, they like to correspond. They like to tell each other all the salacious details of their various uh, sexual misdeeds, and they form a scheme to humiliate one of Myrtwel's old lovers, who is destined to marry a very young girl named Cecile. He wants to marry a sweet, young, convent-educated virgin. And Myrtwel's plot is to have her friend Valmont seduce this young woman and ruin her, so that when she gets married, her husband finds her to be experienced and hopefully also already pregnant. So no regard to the well-being of Cecile or anybody else. And the entire book is about how horrible these two people are, because it's not just this situation, but everybody, all of their relationships and conquests, they just use people, trick people, seduce people, leave them behind, ruin them, and then they just giggle and step out of the dust. And so they're just absolutely horrendous, and for some reason it's also very entertaining. So but meanwhile, another intrigue is forming, because Valmont has another project, or he's trying to seduce a very virtuous married woman that he thinks needs to be, taken off of her moral high horse. I can't say too much about that plot line without spoiling it. So the whole thing is very tawdry, and I'm reading it and participating in a discussion group. I mentioned it before, but I'll link it again. It's a classics discussion group started by Micah Cummins and Ann Novella, and I'll put the information in again. But it's been fun to participate in the Discord and read other people's thoughts and comments about the book and offer my own as I go along. And I will probably finish this today or tomorrow. And it has been fun to read it again, and just, I don't know, just these terrible, terrible people doing terrible things. So that is what has been going on this week. I don't know exactly for sure what I'm going to read next, because I have so many good books on deck, and I need to see if I have something coming up that I need to read for a certain time or discussion, or am I just wild and free. But I still have Demon Copperhead sitting there, How High We Go in the Dark. I kind of think one of those is going to win out. The Marriage Portrait is kind of waving at me from over there too. So I'm not sure. You'll have to wait and see. It'll be a surprise. Anyway, tell me what you've been reading this week. Have you started off the new year with something really wonderful, or was it a meh? But what's going on? What are you reading? Have you read either of these books that I talked about today? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But that's about all for now. I don't have any big plans for the weekend. It's another beautiful sunny day here on the Gulf Coast, so I'm going to enjoy that. But meanwhile, just have a great weekend. Good luck with Friday the 13th, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.